to the What Now podcast. I am Darryl Elliott, and I'm here with our esteemed panel, Myneca Ojo and Archbishop Chase. Regi is not with us for the moment, but we hope to see him very soon. I want to make sure before we get started that you like, share, and subscribe to all of our channels here on Believe Broadcasting. And make sure you tell somebody about the What Now podcast. I'm going to tell you now. Thank you all for watching. We see you. We appreciate you. And we did, guys, just to let you know, I did receive a direct message, I didn't tell you, from one of our listeners, which was very, very heartfelt. And I may give you a little bit of something on that today. But first of all, I want to make sure we talk about the pressing news of the hour, and that is the conflict between Israel and Iran. We've decided that we wanted to chime in. President Trump had ordered a strike on 3 nuclear facilities, or nuclear developmental facilities. He used the term obliterated, but it was leaked that the intelligence agencies have told the president that they did not set back the nuclear program by years, but more or less like months. That's what the word is coming out there. The president, obviously, as he always does, he is disputing that report, and he is he's standing on business, y'all. He said that he made sure that there was nothing left standing, but there's a lot of news in the contrary. So, guys, I'm gonna bring you in here. Let's talk about this. What's going on, guys? When we talk about this Israel Iran war, or flare up, I'll call it. I won't call it full scale war yet, but we're getting a lot of noise. I'm gonna give you my quick opinion. I think Trump jumped in because it was a perfect opportunity for a distraction. And I see a lot of things as distractions, and I try to stay with what could be the main story that people really, really will react to and care about. And that would be, right now, they have a very unpopular bill that they are trying to push through Congress, and anything to keep the media and people from talking about it so they can sneak it through, they are willing to do. So what do you guys think?
Oh my
Ladies
God.
first.
Oh my gosh. It's a mess. Hello everyone. I hate to
That's an
start out
understatement.
with it's a mess, but this is not about Iran and Israel. It is about the US and Iran at this particular point. I mean, we do have a history, and we've had a history for a long time. So
Yeah.
any attack could be attributed to assisting Israel, or being an ally of this, which is something that America hasn't really done. We haven't really had used, absolute force in a way to protect the principles of Israel. We're not talking about the Jewish people. We're talking about the nation of Israel, which was developed in 1948.
Yes.
So this is not, we're not talking about a centuries year war, where there's so many complexities to the situation that that America doesn't understand. This is just simply an intrusion that the U.S. government decided to do, um, at the urging of this man, Donald Trump, who has been elected president of the United States. And I will say there are a lot of people that are like, oh, he's using brute force. This is exactly what we need to do. This is what we need to see. I mean, there's a lot of warmongers out there that believe
Mm-hmm.
this was the right thing to do. But I do not believe this was the right thing for us to do in this country. It was a distraction, and I cannot believe I am siding with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I, I was saying that to myself last night.
But it just that it does not matter at this point. If it's a distraction, absolutely it is. Everything that's happened so far is just an upheaval. But what we're dealing with is someone who has um, does not have a mature mentality. This job is way too big for him as president, and he doesn't think things through, which is very odd for a businessman because usually anytime someone's been in business, they're thinking what the final outcome is going to be before they make a decision. But you just act and you react. And send someone to send, to quote unquote bomb 3 nuclear facilities, which we're now beginning to find out there weren't any there wasn't any product in these things or whatever they call it at this time. So basically they're facilities, but there wasn't any nuclear reactive materials in any of them. So really it was a fail. But I do know that we are organizing and bringing troops, and no matter what they're saying, they're going to want to put troops on the ground, and that frightens me.
And now they're talking regime change, right? Now he's floating it. He's floating regime change, and anytime you say regime change, you're talking about a very, very long engagement, because Iran is not Iraq. Let's start with that. It is. You can put Iraq in Iran 2.5, 3 times, as far as the size and the landscape of the country. And if you thought Iraq was difficult to deal with, Iran is like dealing with the terrain of Afghanistan, which was impossible to deal with. So now you're talking about a whole lot of complexity to a situation, and then you put on top of it a major oil producing nation. So when you get your $7 and $8 gas, you're going to know. All of these things are factors, right?
Most definitely. Looking back on this, that the guise was that this was in retaliation of Iran bombing Israel. But the underlying story is that Iran bombed Israel because Israel had just bombed 5 other nations that were allies of Iran. So here we go. I do have to say this. When we allow Israel to do these things without retribution, we make ourselves look like dumb, stupid idiots. The consensus of the military currently is that is not their war. But because of the oath that they took, they'll go over. And what we're doing right now is we're getting ready to send our young men and women into a war that in reality cannot be won.
Yep.
What you're dealing with is a centuries long conflict. It didn't start just in 1948. When this has been a conflict as soon as Eurocentric influence started happening in that area under a quote unquote Jewish face. So here we are. We've got to stop listening to political propaganda, and we have to get truth. I don't know about you, but those of you who do read the Bible, the Lord said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free."
Mm-hmm.
If we understand what the truth is, these are two conflicting nations that have been at war since biblical times. Where do we, as a nation, have the audacity to police everybody else's conflict? This to me seems like another Vietnam. And if we get into this, if we dare set foot on the soil of Iran, I believe it's going to be devastating, and we will not, as a nation, really recuperate from it.
We're still
You're
trying
going
to
to find
recuperate. We're still trying to recuperate from Afghanistan and
Afghanistan.
Iraq,
Yes,
and we are we mentally damaged a whole generation out of Vietnam.
yes. One of my best friends is a non-vet, and his PTSD is off the charts. What are we doing? I believe that a president should have the best interests of his own people first. When we have homelessness, hunger, and healthcare issues here, we should not be, as a nation, fighting in somebody else's war that has absolutely nothing to do with us. But we were given the pill and we swallowed it. That somehow we're supposed to defend this place called Israel. Okay? And that it is our Christian duty. We are a Christian nation. And that's not true. That is not true. If you knew who those people were to begin with, you would understand that we don't have any business over there. Let them do what they're going to do and let them get their just desserts. Now, if you look at all of the war crimes that Israel is accused of, yet they never face the punishment. They never face the sanctions. They never. But why is that? And I'm going to. I have an opinion. I can probably most definitely back it up with scripture. But these people, that's what they're about. They're about control. They're about money, and they're about war. And they are going to take whatever they want by any means necessary, including manipulating the United States of America into a war that it has nothing to do with.
Well, don't you think that this has become a situation where we are driven by a certain level of folklore? I'll put it that way, because we are not in the true historical context. And today, and I think we'll do a separate pod on this. We'll do a separate pod where we can actually talk about the Jewish people and Israel and who's a Jew and who's not a Jew. So I'm a kind of steer from that conversation a little bit today, but that's one that needs to be had because it's come up quite a bit on my timeline. Uh, but but having said that, the United States is the chief defender of Israel, and it is the chief supplier to Israel. And now most most world wars are triggered through ancillary nations. So if our people who are watching don't know, World War One and World War Two were often they came about, especially World War One, came about the assassination of a monarch, and that triggered from another country, and then World War Two was a result of Hitler's march, and then he started getting into Poland. We did not get into the world of the war until Pearl Harbor happened, but um, nevertheless, it's always a trigger nation or a trigger event that can spark off a world war. Now, this has been my contention. A third world war will be difficult to trigger because of one problem. A lot of people have nukes now. so, so since we are dealing with mutually assured destruction, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, I just want to make sure I'm giving definition to our audience. If you don't know what that term means, what it means is that we can destroy you and you can destroy us. And so the United States and Russia are the chief authors of mutually assured destruction. So that's why no one has ever fired off a nuke, because we know once one goes, the whole stockpile is going to start probably going to go, and we're all going to make sure we demise each other. But having said that, I think that the United States, and you guys can chime in on your opinion, but I think that the United States uses Israel as a reason for a lot of its actions. And they give the pretense, or they can sometimes set the stage for the United States to do some things that they otherwise couldn't do because of the political popularity of it. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I mean, I believe you're correct that the United States is used as a pawn. And I believe there are Jewish leaders in this country. There are pro Israeli leaders that are highly influential in the United States. And they lobby and they have the power to, to influence. And 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 I agree with you in some respect. What I
Mm-hmm.
don't agree with is Israel and their policies to expand beyond the area that they originally intended to utilize, and then use their foundational inspiration to expand more, as this is the Jewish state. And I guess at some point or another we need to grow. But really, this is really an expansionist type effort that we've seen happen in Africa and Asia, in the United States. I mean, we've seen it happen when people are trying to attempt to colonize. And usually that has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with expanding a spiritual homeland. This is all about greed, and it's about money. And in their minds, they believe it's about survival. But at the end of the day, anytime that there is a war, innocent people are impacted. And unlike this country, where I am sorely disappointed of the lack of participation in Americans in their local elections
Mm.
and even in their national elections, to get us to a point. Because when these things happen, then we're caught off guard, and we're having to follow the direction that maybe 10% of the population or 25% of the population actually went out to vote. It wasn't
Mhm.
51% of
Right.
Americans that voted for Donald Trump, it was 51% of the 20% of people that went out to vote, not the other 80% that decided to stay at home and not do anything. Or maybe we have been taught as a nation, and we need to get back to it, that democracy is is in the hands of the ones that lead this country. But maybe we have this learned helplessness that we can't do anything about what's going on. And this is something that has to change. Everything that is happening to us in this country, for the most part, is the fault of Americans that are not getting out there and vote and not exercising their right democratically to support this nation. And they think that everything is just going to remain the same. They'll be able to go to the grocery store and get fruit and whatever they want. They'll think it's there. They don't have an idea that all of these comforts that we have in this country can be taken away just like that.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you think? And me being a technologist and a capitalist, do you think we can do better with the voting numbers if we could at least do a secure online voting system?
No. And let me tell you why. Because it's when people are fed and when they are healthy and when
Okay.
things are running good, they don't care about elections. They
Mm,
don't care about that. It's when
yeah.
things are really rough that you begin to see these fringe groups organize on one side. And then, of course, those fringe groups are, it must be someone else's fault. So then you begin to see other groups organize because it's like, wait, this fringe group is out here. And then there's this reaction where you see other groups, particularly minorities, black and brown people. We're seeing it with the brown people now. They're organizing, but they're only organizing because, the policies have gone in the direction of many of the fringe people, and they believe that supporting this will make them feel better about their situation and will take away from them so that they can have it. So, and I lived in Texas for a good 20 years, was very politically active in Texas. Texas had 6 weeks prior to the election where you can go to centralized locations all throughout Texas to vote in your primary and general elections.
Hmm.
And I will tell you, even in the most educated areas such as Houston, Dallas, Austin, you still, even in a regular presidential election, will only get 20% of the electorate out. You know why? Because relatively, the cost of living used to be pretty low there.
Hmm.
People are less stressed. They're not caring. They don't believe anything is happening to the economy. Then I
Hmm.
moved to the East Coast where there's much more participation in elections because it's a little harder to live on the East Coast
Right.
is in a state that's as plentiful as Texas, and you do see that more people participate in the political process, but you still don't have the level of engagement of everyone in the community to support elections. And I'm talking about even at the lowest level, even at dog catcher, even at municipal elections. Everyone things they don't really think about, school board elections. They don't think about
Right.
municipalities, but these municipalities and school boards have multi-million dollar budgets
Hmm.
that you're allowing 5 to 10% of your population to manage through their elected officials. So multi-million dollar budgets.
That's
So and we just don't think about that.
a thing though that I really pondered. I said, if you try to slice off some more people through technology, is that possible? Is it possible to gain more voters
Mhm.
if it's a push notification or an official voting app, things like that? Now, uh, I believe if we did that, it would get shot down anyway, because the GOP particularly do not want more people voting. That's already a given. That's why they have voter suppression laws and things like that. So being able to get something like that out to begin with is going to be difficult, because of political headwinds. But I just felt that I was thinking, can we get more people? Because 20% is the number we do here, and that's an egregious number. I mean, that's an
And it
egregious
gets even
number.
less with local elections. It gets even less. I mean, I looked at our election here. We have 15,000 people here, and I believe a good 9,000 people voted, and I think less than 1,000 people went to the polls. I mean, you know, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
And I
that's
looked
good.
at one election that had 4,000 people total in their area. It was like 457 people came out and vote. So, you know, it's really about who can get their base out, and people are not informed about elections. I want informed voters to go to the polls and vote, not people who are voting on a motion, that are thinking that someone is just going to, you know, save their life. You know, like Donald Trump, you know, he presents a message to those that in the back of their mind that believe it's everyone else's fault, the reason why they don't have. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the 20, 30 years of decision making that we've made by putting certain people in positions in local government, state government, and nationally.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
all the residuals on it.
You know, I think there's another reason why the lack of voting is occurring, and that is simply that people feel defeated. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either way, it's going to wind up uh, not for their benefit. So they decide, hey, let's just not vote. Doesn't matter, because they're going to do what they're going to do anyhow. And then you have Democratic and you have Republican parties, and we have to understand something, that these are two sides of the same federal coin. The goal is the same, but the methodology in getting there is different. So people are feeling defeated. They're feeling like they do not have a voice, even in that vote. Uh, the last couple of elections, we saw voter manipulation several times. Uh, this last election in November, we saw voter manipulation. So people are actually tired of a system that consistently screws them over. Doesn't matter what party it is, okay? And especially as Black folks now, we're getting to understand that yes, we were told to be democratic, especially since the 40s, 50s, and 60s, especially the 60s, but they came as friends, but they really haven't done anything. And it's always pointing the finger. Well, the Republican Party. No, let me tell you what it is. It's the system in and of itself. Okay, there are systematic changes that have to occur, and if those changes do not occur, you're going to see even more dwindling response. Why is that? Because people automatically think that the election is rigged to begin with, and only the upper 1% are going to choose who that president or whatever is going to be. Okay.
Okay. I might have to disagree with you on that.
Well, no, I'm saying people in general. I'm not saying this is the truth, but when you listen to people, and that's who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with lives. Okay, and we can make a determination of this is what we want to do, and this is the methodology that we're going to use to get to it. That methodology is called legislation. This is what we're going to write. Okay, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me stop you just on one point there, because I hear that a lot. And I don't believe it. I believe these people are just not voting. I believe they're thinking of no reason. They're making excuses for not getting involved in the process. They've just decided it doesn't really matter to me for something. And so, it must be rigged. I mean, we know that 1% anything is possible anywhere. And there's, you slide, but for the most part, the election process is a fair process when people utilize it. But that 1% that's saying, or those people that are deciding not to go to the polls because it's rigged, how do you come to that decision?
Well,
yeah, I would love to look at their voting record to see what their
I would love to too, but I'm saying I'm not saying that's the truth, but I'm saying that's the story, and this is how people are feeling. You see, especially in inner city areas, okay, in minority areas where the people are struggling to begin with. When is there going to be something that is done for them? When are they going to see and they've gone to polls, they've done this, they've voted, and some of them.
It's called learned helplessness.
Okay, but when we don't listen to the people, and I think that's the biggest issue, is that politicians aren't really listening to the people. I'm going to tell you why. The majority of the country doesn't give a flying fig Newton about LGBTQ rights. The Democratic Party has made this the poster child for the Democratic Party.
I agree with you.
And it's because of money manipulation. So when you have Democrats, staunch Democrats, that see this going on, they're saying, well, this isn't for me anyhow. I don't have a dog in the fight. What we should have been attacking healthcare. We should have been attacking education,
minimum wage.
Minimum wage. We should have been attacking those things. But instead, we're talking about we're going to make you feel just like everybody else. No, we're not ever going to move ahead with mentality like that. So when politicians, and I know you're different, Madam Mayor, but when politicians don't listen to the people that they're serving and they sell out to these lobbying groups, and I understand that they're paying the bills, okay? But your special interest doesn't have anything to do with my natural ability, right, and privilege to prosper myself. Okay, and so when that is being put as a hallmark, as a flag that takes precedence over everything else, dagnabbit, why should I even get involved?
Now, one thing I'm thinking about. One thing I'm thinking about is the recent primary in the New York mayoral race, where I want to get his name right. His name is Zohan Mamdani.
Oh, yeah. It'll take a minute to learn his name, but
yeah. And he ran a campaign beating out former Governor Cuomo. And it was a social media driven campaign. They said he knocked on about 1.5 million doors. The campaign was, they took to the streets. They just posted and posted and posted on Instagram and TikTok. They were running on a progressive Bernie Sanders agenda, Bernie Sanders AOC agenda. And he won that election. Of course, the later returns are still coming in, but his numbers were impressive.
Yeah.
His numbers over Cuomo were impressive. Um, and it made me think that the country is leaning towards progressivism, slowly but surely. And even, and this is going to sound funny, even in MAGA, there is a progressive streak, because we cannot forget that Bernie Sanders people and Trump people are one tick away from each other. Because if you remember the 2016 election, the Sanders people said if not, I'm sorry, the Trump people said if not Trump, Sanders. There's a commonality there, and that commonality is what we know as populism. And because we are dealing with a populist streak right now in the country, and the country is radically changing, and a new generation is also emerging. That's going to be new voters with a different set of values. That is a kind of a that's kind of a warning signal as to what politicians need to be thinking in terms of being able um, to win elections, and now we're at this place of actually do what you say, because right now Trump is getting hammered on, you said no stupid wars. He's getting hammered on, you didn't say anything about Greenland and Canada becoming a part of the United States. For the one who lived on promises made, promises kept, this term is a lot of people in his corner and his camp that's been mumbling and rumbling about his priorities. And I'm saying all that to say this is that from what you're both saying, I'm seeing that we are looking at a new form of politician has to emerge and is emerging. You have it with Zohan, you have it with, AOC and Bernie Sanders are the precursors to this. And how you message to the people, because of social media, and to a lot of degrees, you got to get out and meet the people. You have to hybrid campaign. You have to be digital and in person. That's what he did, and it worked. And I don't think that we are in an appetite for a war for sure. I think a lot of people are adverse to that. They're adverse to a lot of what's being put up there. But to what Bishop is saying, people are tired and feel defeated on one hand, and then on the other hand, to what you're saying, Myneca, in terms of the voter level of apathy because of being comfortable. I think all of this stuff is going into a big gumbo right now, and we're gonna have to figure out what's going to kind of rise in the pot. Don't you guys do you guys feel that way about this?
Yeah, it's definitely, a distraction, a major shift in how we live our lives will it will make people react. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what the country needs to see. The country needs to see politicians that keep their word.
That's where we are right now.
I'm going to drop the mic there, and that's both sides.
But that's what's happening with Trump now. See, now he's doing a lot of things that weren't even mentioned in the campaign. That's the problem. The problem is his priorities, the things that have taken front and center, other than the immigration thing, and even with immigration, he's upside down on that because of how they're doing it. So people say, hey, we wanted you to deal with immigration, but we didn't say like this. So we're dealing with him just totally kind of going off of his entire script pre-election, and people are reacting to that. He's become more unpopular than he's been even last term.
Well, I believe that what the country really needs is, unless the country truly returns to caring for and fighting for working class individuals, this whole political system is going to crumble. Then we have to look at something else, and I'm just talking history. Governments come and governments go.
That's true.
And there is nothing that lasts forever except for Almighty God himself. So what we may need is we need to erase what has been and rewrite things so it is equitable. You see, I don't deal with as my friend Archbishop Land says, I don't deal with the illusion of inclusion. Either I'm included or I'm not. Okay, and you can't have a double standard. Right. You see, so talking out of both sides of your mouth and this, that, and the other thing, and this is what most politicians are known for. I've met in my lifetime, I've met very few honest politicians. And I met quite a few. Madam Mayor, you're one of them. that is honest.
Thank
okay?
you.
But I don't, where the rest of them? From the city council to your county commissioners and your state representatives and so on and so forth, where there are 2 state senators in the state of Tennessee that look like us, and they're dynamos, and they're fighting against a regime, a long-established political regime in that state of racism. You see, I'm of the mindset that unless and until the Constitution applies to all people equally, then don't tell me about a Constitution. Don't talk about it, be about it. Mm-hmm. And so what we see is going back and forth over the aisle is how we're going to make it seem like it's equitable when it really isn't, because both sides are selling out to special interest groups. Both sides. Right. And so people have to get a level of trust. They have to establish a level of trust, but they're never going to do it under the current regime, under these current policies, because it has proven itself time and time and time again to be counterproductive. We make a step forward in one area, and we take 2 steps back in another area.
And I just want everybody to know that if we had not allowed someone that said that they're eating the cats and the dogs to become president, we would not be in this situation. I'm gonna move us to the next topic on that note.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You bought the spiller goods.
Oh yes.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. If you didn't buy that one, y'all, might not would be here today if we weren't buying the cats and dogs
You're
narrative.
eating the
Uh,
dog.
we yeah, we would have been
And I
all
had to
right, I
stop
think.
writing my book, which is called Effective Communications for a Culturally Changing Constituency, so I could go back to put that in the
Right.
book
You gotta put
because,
that. You gotta put
yeah.
that in there.
Yeah.
Well, y'all,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a short break, and then we're gonna come back, and I want to talk about the next topic real quick.
In a world where convenience meets diversity, there's one marketplace that stands out from the rest. Welcome to Firecart, your ultimate destination for all things shopping. At Firecart, we believe in bringing you not just the everyday essentials, but also a curated selection of cultural and handmade products that celebrate diversity and craftsmanship from around the globe. Whether you're looking for the latest gadgets, trendy fashion pieces, or one-of-a-kind artisanal creations, Firecart has you covered. Our diverse range of products caters to every taste and preference. But that's not all. Introducing our exciting affiliate program, Firestarters, where you have the opportunity to earn money by being a Firecart seller or by referring customers through your affiliate link with generous commissions. Imagine making passive income simply by sharing products you love with your friends and followers. With Firecart, it's not just about shopping, it's about building your own success story. And here's the kicker. During our exclusive launch period, you can take advantage of discounted pricing and special perks available only to our founding members. So why wait? Join the Firecart revolution today and experience shopping like never before. Firecart, where every purchase ignites a world of opportunity. For more information, visit firecart.shop. Your journey to endless possibilities starts now.
Firecard is a subsidiary of Dynam Technologies, and we are thankful for all of our sellers and also our affiliates and buyers. Make sure you check out firecard.shop so that you can find out some deals that you can get and how you can also profit on becoming a partner with us. All right, guys, we're short on time today, so I do want to get one cultural piece in there. But before we do that, I do want to let our audience know how much we appreciate them and their feedback to us. I did receive a long text. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we had one of our viewers chime in on our conversations about women's black women's relationships in with black men, Myneca. And I'm going to tell you that you have someone who stood with you on some of this. She
Oh my
said,
God.
"Oh, so I just finished watching the podcast, and yes, our black relationships are in dire need of revival. I'm like Myneca in regards to the cheating husband. As many know, I married right out of high school and remained to this uh, psychologically and physically abusive being for 7 years. When I left with my 6 and 7 year old babies, I literally ran to save my life." She goes on later to talk about how she ended up diving into her work. They had a business together. They had, but he was he at one time they had a business together. He was not a good partner either in business or in the relationship. And she said that later on, when things ended, she found her voice and a second wind in life. She went on. She travels the world now, and she is very successful in business and in real estate. Uh, but she says that she thinks she's working, like right now she's working so hard to kind of fill the void for right now. She hopes to have a better relationship in the future. Maybe I'll read it in its full entirety when we have more time. But I wanted to acknowledge our viewers today, and this was I think we kind of hit a little something, guys, because folks out here got some things going on, and we're trying to address them. So I do want to thank our viewer. And I wanted to let you guys know about that. And we are going to pick up more on that topic come next week. I don't know if we need to talk more about the ladies or do I need to drag the men into this, and then we'll kind of stir the pot from there. But I just want to let you all know that we hear you and we want to thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Um, well, having said that about relationships, our dear brother Tyler Perry has a lawsuit, 200 million plus from a former cast member. Uh, that I can't remember the production, so I won't try to just put it out. Nevertheless, he said he was, I guess, sexually harassed and assaulted. He's released some alleged text messages, and it's a little messy. I don't know if we reached a full messy yet, but it's a little messy. We know that he's coming off of this highly acclaimed Netflix show right now that everybody has been watching, with Taraji as the star. So what's going on, guys? I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try not be the gossip columnist today, but what's the deal?
So Tyler, my gosh, yeah. I mean, is anyone really surprised? I
Mm,
mean, really. So no one should really be surprised if you really looked at the content of Tyler Perry's stuff. So Straw was it was really done well. Why Did I Get Married? It's a few things that he does really well.
hmm
But when you go into his shows like The Oval, and there's another show too that involves a cult.
hmm
Yeah, and really just start looking into the behavior, the sexual deviance, and look, I am not a prude, but some of the content is so racy, for me,
hmm
that this is and perverted almost in a sense. When you're kind of used to having
hmm
normal, relationships with a partner. To me, it's
Uh-huh.
kind of it's perverted, and I don't know if he is going to that level of perversion because of what has happened previously in his life,
Right. I was
or
going to bring that up.
or
Yeah.
if it's something that that he believes that the viewers want to see. But I think a lot of the content, if you really, really look at some of his content, really reflects the nature of Tyler Perry and what's inside of him. So to see this, first of all, I've never been really surprised about anyone's sexuality.
hmm
More specifically, Tyler Perry. I mean, he's married, but he's in this, strange relationship. We don't really know who she is, and you know,
hmm
I, I don't know if he's wearing a skirt or, I mean, whatever is going
hmm
on. And
Right.
even there was some commentary. It was by a very conservative lady. I won't even mention her name, but I did comment on it because she said we should have been bothered a long time ago
Mm.
about Tyler Perry and his Medea role and him dressing up as a woman consistently, and that being a part of the uh, landscape of church humor. Because
hmm
remember, he fed into the church audience, and that is what made him popular and made
hmm
him get to the point that he is. But there, I can't think of that one show with the cult right now, but the Oval. Watching that, and then watching the show about the cult just
hmm
really provided me some very dark insight as to how his mind thinks and how it works. So when
hmm
I look at something like Derek Dixon, who's who's a young stud, and he played in both of those shows, by the way, um, and and some of the text messages that came out and the come ons and some of the language that I saw to be very problematic, just looking at the text language, because there is some quid pro quo in there. Tyler Perry, as a professional, as a leader of an industry that he has, made multi-billion-dollar industry, he should really protect himself in a way that he is not having relationships or wanting to have that level of control over people that he hires to be in those roles. Tyler Perry is very powerful. His word is gold. He could impact someone's career just like this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I believe a lot of people will stand by him because he is given money and he's very transactional. But I believe there's something possibly to it, because he wouldn't be the first man that this has happened to that thinks he's untouchable, especially when we've got one in the White House right now.
Mm. Yeah, where there's smoke, right? That's Bishop. I'm, I'm leaving this up to you now.
Please don't, because I have very little to say about Tyler Perry. I did watch a couple of his movies on Netflix, but other than that, I do not get into, the whole entertainment industry uh, is not my forte. So
Mhm.
I will recuse myself from this particular conversation because I have absolutely nothing to say now. If you want my personal opinion, out of things that I have seen so far as news and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, well, it is what it is, and such is human behavior.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's true.
but other than that, I have absolutely nothing to say other than that we all need to repent. Uh,
My God.
every last one of us. I'm not judging anybody's sin.
Right.
There's no such thing as a big sin, little sin. Everybody needs to repent.
Right.
And this sounds like one of those situations where there needs to be some repentance,
Mm.
some
That's
soul
very good.
searching.
That's very good, Bishop.
Leave it at
I,
that.
and see, this is when we need Reggie here. But this is, but let me chime in here. I think what we're dealing with is a situation. You have an individual who I'll never forget when Oprah was still on, and Oprah did a special on child on molestation, and Tyler uh, boldly stood with all of the victims of molestation. He stood and he stood as she said, for all of you who are victims, you can boldly stand today and things like that. And he stood with the victims, and that was and he did it with I could see that he meant it. He's obviously been hurt in his life, um, and some people, a lot, a lot of people, it takes a lifetime to get over those demons, to get over the impact of that. And to your point, Myneca, um, to your point about the type of content that he produces, um, it may very well be the outward expression of that struggle, and it could very well be a lot of that manifesting through his work that we're seeing his fight with sexuality, with relationships, with being functional, being a functional human being. One thing we do know about people who can be successful is that they many times are driven by their pain, and there could very well be something that's back there in the back seat driving his car, which puts him now in a situation here. Some of the people who are capable of the greatest good they're also capable of the greatest evil. That's a long understood saying, and what we're looking at though is me being a former entertainer, quote unquote. I would say that it is very important. I haven't read it yet, but Brad Pitt is talking about, I think, his journey to sobriety, and I haven't read it yet, but I know he said that he needed a reboot. That's what he said, and I think that for anyone in entertainment, I was saying to my wife not long ago, I said people don't know the physical demand on a musician. Like, because I played 200 concerts a year at one time, around 200. Then I'm in the studio at night and all that, and just the physical part of the job can push people to drug addiction, bad relationship dynamics, things like that. Because you may be on painkillers. Today is the anniversary of Michael Jackson's death. So at the time of this recording is, and we know he couldn't sleep. His sleep cycle was literally broken. And Prince, similar. I was saying also, our music icons from a period of time have died. You have Michael, Prince, and Whitney. Those were like the biggest of the big stars coming through that 80s, 90s period. And they all died relatively young. And if you don't deal with your demons when you're in the music industry, when you're in the entertainment world, period, you can really find yourself in a bad place. It sounds like something that we really need to keep. I think if we better deal with our artists, like, I think the public needs to be a little bit more holding artists accountable, not in a negative sense. I think holding them accountable for their own well-being. See, if we cared more about the artists, we will hold them more accountable to being well themselves. Does that make sense in what I'm saying? Because you can have a lot of yes people around you, when you're making money and you're paying people's mortgages, and who's going to tell you you're wrong, right?
It takes much less, honestly, to buy people's loyalty than what they have. So imagine having the resources that they have to really impact people's lives. You're absolutely correct. You can buy a lot of yeses.
You can.
Yeah.
I think the one positive so far in LeBron James's life is he's still with his high school friends, so they know him from they're his closest bunch. He's married to the girl that married him when he had nothing. His mom still is around, and they say you can't penetrate that circle too much, and he's known to be a homebody. So, every now and then you may see him at a celebration or something or whatever. But even by accounts, one of his teammates was on a podcast, and he said, this is a guy that at the club, he's actually going in the back and getting treatment so he can play the next day. So he wasn't even partying at the club. He was getting stretched out and treated so he can play the next. So even a former teammate, and this is a teammate that he didn't always get along with. So if somebody was going to have some dirt, it would have been this guy. And he said, no, this guy's he's what everybody says about him, but that happens when you have enough people around you that help keep you grounded. And hopefully this situation will have some resolve, and hopefully it'll have some kind of better space, and that Tyler could be able to continue to do good, but maybe produce a little bit more, less dark content. I agree with you. I cannot watch every Tyler Perry production. I've known that about myself. And a lot of church people did bring him to where he is. So, he might want to clean some of that up, if it is something going on there. One last thing I was thinking about is that we are coming. First of all, I hope everybody had a happy Juneteenth. Okay, so we didn't get to talk about Juneteenth, and I did post my post. Of course, it was the riverboat, the riverboat incident. That is my official. I think that has become the official Juneteenth painting commemorative of Black people exercising their freedom. But we hope that everybody did have a good Juneteenth. What did you guys do for Juneteenth before we get off? Bishop, you do anything?
Rested. I rested. And
Yes.
I taught a class that evening, but mostly I just rested and reflected on how it's a terrible dynamic when you have your ethnic counterparts telling you that freedom was gained in 1776, when that is an absolute lie, and I think one of the main things is that there has to be more conversation, because especially the generations that we have now, they don't believe that anything is wrong. Okay, they don't know the depth of the hurt and the pain that we carry with us. They cannot fathom the generations of oppression that we still have with us, if not physically, but mentally and emotionally. So there are scars that we all carry, knowing our journey in this land, knowing the absolute disregard that people have for the struggle that we yet and still endure. And so I look and I say, there's no cause to be angry, but there is a very big clarion call to get educated properly, because you'll never know. If I step on your toe and I didn't feel it, I'll never know that I stepped on your toe unless and until you tell me. But there has to be a willingness to listen, not just to say I'm sorry, but to show that you're sorry. So I reflected on where we are today. I reflected on how many placebos they've tried to give us, and since then, to make us feel like we were part of them, and yet and still. And then I reflected on what is going on with not only DEI, but this whole Project 2025, and how it is a direct attack against the freedoms that we now supposedly enjoy. Yeah, so yeah, it was a big day of reflection for me.
Yes. Myneca?
Yeah. So, my paternal family is from Texas. So, as you know, I was born and raised in Tulsa. And so Juneteenth has always been a celebration that we've done. I mean, I remember Juneteenth
Right.
celebrations as far back as the 70s. I didn't even remember. I didn't even know what it was, but we were just going to them. And now it's a national holiday. I kind of struggle with it a little bit because it is, specifically about Texas, but the way it's framed nationally is it is the day that all African Americans can celebrate as one that celebrates us moving from enslavement to freedom, even though it was 18 months after Lincoln had declared. The United States that slavery was no longer a part of this fabric in our country. Um, so, you know, I celebrate it, but I don't celebrate it in the same sense. I'll take that time, an opportunity to do a lot of reading and a lot of learning about what it's going to take for us to be really free. And the freedom that we need to have in this country is not only the freedom of expression to be ourselves, but to really understand what those past struggles, and what those struggles mean to us to advance us as a people, or to even advance us as Americans in the society. It shouldn't be about the struggle all the time. It's the fact that for 400 years, that African Americans were enslaved, but yet still they were able to still survive the system and still able to find relative success in a country that does, even though we have all the discriminatory practices and systemic barriers, it's still an opportunity to overcome those barriers at some point, no matter how minimal they are, to be successful. And all I want our people to do, especially our young people, because as we move further and further away from generations that were enslaved, they know less about the struggles that took us there. I was
Yes.
born, I was not born in the South with the right to vote. I was not born with the right to vote. Yeah, that didn't come until 1964. And at that point, I'm aging myself, but I was, 2 years old at the time. So when that came, so imagine just not being able to vote. Well, anyone in their 40s and 50s, well, that was generations ago for them. Martin Luther King would have been, what, 100 years old right now? Yeah. I mean,
Almost.
yeah, he wouldn't even have been the age of my grandmother. And then just to fast forward about, Black Wall Street, and my cousin, who would have been roughly around the same age, that is a man that I knew that was part of the, Tulsa Race Massacre. So, and my relatives, my uncles and aunts who are maybe 15, 20 years can tell a story, because imagine they actually had grandparents that were actually enslaved. So, so we're only a few generations away from that. And it's just that we need to keep our history so we don't repeat this again, and we continue to advance and move forward. And that's all I want for us.
Yeah, I spent Juneteenth actually on the road. Took our daughter to Philly to get up with her friends, and subsequently they went to a party. My wife and I, we went to try and go out and have a little private time. As a result, um, it monsooned that day. If you all know, it rained really hard on the coast, and And so we went to one place to eat, and the power went out before we could get our order
Mm.
cooked. Then we had to leave that place, and we went to another place. We went to another place to eat, and the POS went out. I guess because of the storm, so they couldn't put our order in. Uh, we ended up giving into mall food. We just got some food at the court, the food court. But I tell you what was on my mind that day. My mind actually was on Black genius, uh, that of the genius of Black people, and how that genius went towards our survival, and it will also go towards our advancement. And whether that genius is in the arts, it's in science, it's in literary, it's political, it is in every walk of life, in the from the pulpit to the fields. That Black genius, we don't give it enough airtime. I think that we can really talk about the brilliance of Black people, and that brilliance is going to definitely shine through. So those were my true reflective thoughts on Juneteenth. I think that we're great people. We have much to celebrate. We fight a lot. We fight so much. We need to sometimes take a break and to celebrate each other. So hopefully we can all do that. And I think that we could all be the better for it if we do so. Well, guys, as usual, I thank you so much for everything. I think our listeners and our What Now family. Thank you all for being a part of this whole community that's building. Make sure you tell people that we're on here and share all of the good stuff that we're sharing here on What Now. And also like, share, and subscribe on Believe Broadcasting. We got some new stuff that's going to be dropping soon, so be on the lookout for that. Well, Madam Mayor and Archbishop, you know I love you. I appreciate you so much, and we love you, Reggie, out there. So we look forward to seeing you on the next one. And everybody, thank you so much, and we'll catch you the next time. God bless.
Thank you. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.